Hi everyone, it's Indran from the Story Institute. I'm really excited to have you here with me today, and I want to wish you a warm welcome to SEOCON 2021. I have a lot of great content to share with you, so let's jump right in, okay? Now, at last year's conference, I spoke about something very interesting, which is how you can use your SEO and storytelling skills to raise your page rank. Now, this is amazing, okay? This is absolutely amazing, but this year, I'm going to talk about something even more important than that, which is how you can actually use storytelling to raise your personal profile. And this is something which you will see shortly how great it is, okay? So some of you might be asking, wow, you know, why should I even be able to tell my own story, and why is it important? Well, I'll tell you why. You need storytelling because if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to tell it for you. And storytelling is absolutely tied in with your reputation. And your reputation is tied in with your business results and your success in life and pretty much anything you do. So your story is super important. Well, I guess since we're talking about storytelling, I'm going to start telling you my story. Okay, it's only fair that I tell you my story. You know, if tomorrow some hackers got into my bank account and wiped out all the money, I wouldn't care. You know why? Because I discovered a very important skill some years ago that completely changed the course of my life. I'm talking about when I started work at HSBC in 2005. And you know, that time I was really green in the world of banking. I had no idea because I had no experience in banking prior to that. So I was making a lot of mistakes with my work, and you know, getting laughed at by my colleagues and getting scolded by my bosses, right? It was a really difficult time, and it was pretty much a boring job, you know, moving other people's money around. So after a while though, I worked really hard and I learned on the job, and I managed to actually get some respect and admiration of the people around me at work. And I also was kind of like enjoying my job, you know. For the first time I was kind of enjoying working in the bank and doing this stuff with banking and finance and stuff like that. But just at that point, I suddenly found myself broke, jobless, and in a brand new country. So you're probably wondering, like, how did that happen, right? Well, it all started when I decided to migrate to Australia. Now, the migration process for most people is actually very, very difficult to get into Australia because, you know, they've got the point system and this and that and whatever else. For me, I was fortunate because there was no problem with the stuff related to immigration and stuff. I got my visas as per expected. And then on top of that, I also got a job, right? So I got a job offer. So everything was working perfectly, right? So I landed in Australia in September of 2008. And unfortunately, just when I got there, my job disappeared. Why? Because it was the start of the global financial crisis. And that bank that was supposed to hire me started firing its employees. They fired 3,000 people that year. Okay, so I thought to myself, you know what, no problem. I'm going to be able to get a job, no worries. I'm great, I'm wonderful. And I was very, very upbeat about finding a job and making success as in a career in banking and finance in Australia. But 4 months later, my dreams were all shattered. The reason is because I didn't, basically I underestimated, right? I underestimated the length of the global financial crisis and how deep it would affect me. Just a bit like COVID-19, a lot of us, when we first heard of COVID-19, we didn't think it would last this long, right? We are now in 2021 and it's COVID-19, right? So COVID-19, COVID-20 and COVID-2021 already, right? So it's sort of gone on like that. And we didn't realize, a lot of us, the impact and the severity of COVID-19. Anyway, so, you know, 4 months later, I had been rejected for over 100 jobs, and I was very, very sad. I was a shadow of my former self, very unconfident. You know, you go into the spiral of low self-esteem, and I was also sick and tired of being ignored by recruiters. I was tired of being compared to with my friends and my colleagues. So it was a really, really bad thing. But the worst thing ever was actually being hounded by the banks. You see, what happened was I had made some bad financial decisions during that 4 months, and which resulted in my savings being wiped out. Okay, so here I have my savings being wiped out, number one. Number two, my credit cards all maxed out. So I am nearly bankrupt at age 37. Okay, so I thought to myself, this is it, right? It was so bad that I couldn't even afford a cup of coffee, let alone paying the minimum balance on my credit cards, right? So needless to say, I was in a state of depression and walking in a very, very lonely and very, very dark path, right? Now, at the lowest point of my life, I met this guy who was a financial planner, and he wanted me to create some videos for him. Now, let me tell you straight away, I do not do videos. I've never done videos up to that point, right? And but I did own like a battered old Handycam, okay, like a battered old video camera. I still have it, and it was there from my traveling days, right? But certainly I couldn't do video editing and all this fancy stuff. But I lied to him and I said, yes, I can do video, because I was so desperate, because I thought of all the banks calling me and stuff like that. So I just said, yes, I can do videos. So he said, great, come to my office on Friday at 3 p.m. After he left, I thought to myself, oh my God, what have I done, right? What have I gotten myself into? Because he's going to know that I'm an absolute fraud. He's going to know that I'm not a video editor or anything, right? So I said, I was actually going to call him and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't make it because I'm, you know, I can't do this job, right? But then the thoughts of all the banks calling me and that I needed money for grocery bills and stuff like that. So I said, no, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do video editing, or I'm going to die trying. So that's what I did. On Wednesday and Thursday, I learned as much as I could about how to do some basic video editing and stuff like that. And on Friday afternoon, I took my battered video camera and my shaky tripod into his office, and I said, here I am. And I was expecting the worst, but it turned out to be not as bad as I thought. His expectation wasn't that high, and he just wanted some basic videos done of him explaining about financial concepts to people during the global financial crisis. And that was great, and he paid me for it, and I was so grateful for the money he gave me, because it really helped. Now, the money he paid me was not a life-changing amount, okay? But what he introduced to me, he actually opened the door to a life-changing moment in the form of this guy called Robert Innes. Okay, now Robert was actually a case study, and he was getting disability insurance because he was too depressed to work. And why was he too depressed to work? Because his daughter, who was just 14 years old, was killed in a very tragic accident all of a sudden, right? So that was already bad enough. You know, it's a real loss to his family, but it was actually a loss to the nation as well, because she was also Olympic part of the Australian Olympic team. She was a figure skater, and she was also a national champion, right? So it was a tragic loss for all around. Now, as he spoke about his experience and, you know, how he got the call in the middle of the night by the police saying, hey, your daughter is missing, we need to blah, 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 come over and stuff like that, right? It was a very, very gut-wrenching story that he told, you know, and I recorded all of it. It was very, very emotional. Everyone got emotional, and recorded it, and then it was uploaded to the financial planners website. Okay, so that was done, and then I forgot about it after that, you know. But 7 days later, I was just, you know, casually going to the internet, And I happened to go and do a search on Google, and I found that this video has gone to page 1 on Google. Okay, so I thought to myself, wow, certainly it is not because of my fantastic video editing skills. I knew that for sure. So, but why did this video do so well? So I started to re-look at this video and started to re-understand, right? Like how, what was so special about this video? And I realized something very interesting. This video is actually following a structure called Kisho Tenketsu. It's a ancient Japanese storytelling method that had been used in this video. And I know this method very well because one day when I was in HSBC, my boss walked into my room and said, "Hey, we need to create a video game for the employees to play." And I thought to myself, oh my God, you know, I was already working like 18-hour days. I didn't want another assignment on my table. And I was the worst person that she should give this assignment to, because I'm one of 3 people in the world who doesn't know how to play video games, right? Anyway, assignment is assignment. So I went out and I started to research about games. I sat down with the game developers and the game designers, and we designed the game, right? But during this time, I discovered this Kisho Tenketsu had also been used by Nintendo to create their iconic game, the Super Mario Brothers, right? And this formula had earned Nintendo $30 billion US, right? That's how much they made with that game. So I thought to myself, wow, you know, Nintendo made $30 billion US with this Kisho Tenketsu through their Super Mario Brothers. This video turned itself to page 1, right? Using this similar story structure of Kisho Tenketsu. What if I could tweak this ancient Japanese storytelling model to fit my own needs for my video marketing and stuff for my clients? So, and that's exactly what I did. I started to do that, and before long I tried it with 1 or 2 clients, you know, experimental, and their sales exploded, right? I saw very good results with those using the power of storytelling. But then something funny happened. You know, my cynical mind came into the picture and said, are you sure this is really about storytelling that's caused all this great success? You know, when you were in HSBC, it was a video game that the employees were playing, and that's why you got such great results. And it's true. When I introduced the video game to the 33,000 employees at HSBC, we had the highest ever engagement. And I put it down to the fact that it was a video game. Of course, you know, all the rest of their life is so boring at work. Playing a video game is really going to be fun, right? And then when it was the YouTube video where I managed to get something really amazing for getting to page 1 on Google, which is wonderful, right? I said, you know, it's not because of me. It's not because of the storytelling method. It's because that girl is an absolute celebrity, and that's why it's so successful, right? And each time I always made excuses. Oh, the product must be good. Oh, because of that. Oh, because of this. I wouldn't want to credit storytelling, okay? But all that changed, and in fact, to my detriment, you know, I had the golden goose that was laying all the great eggs in front of me, but I ignored it completely, right? So sometimes you see a great thing in front of your face, but you just cannot appreciate it, and that's what happened to me. And I actually, believe it or not, I actually abandoned storytelling, and for a few years I was doing other things, okay? And that's how amazing and how crazy it was for me. But anyway, one day I had to use storytelling again when I had a client which is called GEMS Education. This is a very big company. They are about $5 billion worth, right? They are the largest private education specialist in the world, and they had a problem with one of their business units in Malaysia, and they asked me to help out with that. And I used the power of storytelling to actually grow their business 10 times. That's right. Within 24 months, I grew their business to multiple millions 10 times. And they were so happy with me. They obviously rewarded me and also left a testimonial on my LinkedIn, which you can read at any time. Don't go now, stay with me, but go and visit and read the testimonials to find out how I actually did it for GEMS Education. But anyway, after that thing with GEMS Education, after seeing the power of storytelling with GEMS Education, I said to myself, this is it, right? I am fully 110% now convinced that storytelling is absolutely the way to go, right? And that Japanese storytelling method is the way to go. Now, why is that Japanese storytelling method so different? Why is it doing so much of good? Whereas, what about the Hollywood method? What about all the other methods, right? The difference between the Japanese storytelling method and any other method is that if you go and watch a movie, say for example, whatever Steven Spielberg movie, Jaws, or all these great movies, right, that they make in Hollywood, you will see that it is very captivating, it's very enjoying, it's very nice, but it absolutely does not allow you to take it into your workplace. You can't take the car chase, you can't take the action scene, the sex scene, you can't take all that excitement, you cannot bring it into your workplace. Whereas the Japanese method doesn't require conflict in its story structure, if you look at it from a technical point of view, right? So, and because of that, it lends itself better to the business world, it lends itself better because of its story structure. So that's the stuff that I use today. I call it the Storify method. And I actually go around the world. Well, now I can't go in person, but I still, like today, I use the power of virtual to actually get the message out about storytelling, the power of story, and how it can help you get to your business goals, for business results, for influence, for persuasion, and pretty much communication. Because we have been communicating using the power of story for as long as humans have been on this earth, right? So I don't really focus on storytelling, rather not really telling stories. My focus is on the power of story, using story structure, using the principles behind story, which is basically the scientific stuff, brain science, neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and all the rest of it, right? That actually make up how people make decisions, how people are influenced, how they are persuaded, and how you can get them and move them to action. And that's what storytelling is all about when I use it. All right, so that's basically it. Now, please go to the website when you get a chance. I'm flashing the link again. I'll flash it again later at the end of this presentation. Please go and download your free gift, because it's got lots of goodies there for you, including some really amazing stuff, which I will share in the next segment. All right, thank you very much. And now we move to the next segment, which is how to tell your story. Now we are in the next segment, which is all about you, the most important part, which is how you can tell your own story. Okay. And I'm going to use something very, very interesting to tell your story for you. And it's a model that's been developed by a company that has made billions upon billions upon billions of dollars using the power of story. What company is that? Well, it's called Pixar. And if you don't know Pixar, and you don't know these Pixar characters, well, you've probably been living under a rock for the last 20 years, okay? Because Pixar is one of the most successful movie studios that has ever existed. Okay, it was developed in collaboration with Steve Jobs, who used to run it and own it, and now it's run by Disney and owned by Disney, and they keep making all these amazing movies. Now, a couple of years ago, very interestingly, one of the employees of Pixar actually leaked out their secrets. Okay, she leaked out 22 of their secrets. One of them I'm going to share with you today, which is how Pixar makes their movies. Okay, how does Pixar actually make their movies? Believe it or not, their secret sauce is so simple, so amazingly simple, you wouldn't believe. Okay, it's a 6-step process, and which I'm going to run with you. I'm going to run through with you one by one. Okay, the first one is once upon a time. So basically here, you're talking about introduction of the character. So, you know, once upon a time there was a princess who, you know, blah blah blah, lived in a castle, blah blah, whatever, right? So that's the first part. And then the next one is every day. So every day there's a routine that this princess would go through, okay, whatever it is. And then after that, number 3, but one day. So this is the day where you have this inciting moment, the day where you have the conflict, okay, or where you have the day where things went upside down, okay, something has happened on this day. So after that, a series of events start to happen, which is basically the consequences of that event that happened. So it's like a domino effect. Think about it like a domino effect, right? So because one day the evil witch came and you know, cast a spell on her and took her away or whatever, right? And then after that, the prince had to come and go and rescue her, and because of that, and they fell in love and blah blah blah, right? So there's a lot of stuff, and then finally the boy meets the girl, or there's a happy ending at the end, okay? So that is the climax, and that's it, done. So you can see this methodology is so simple, but incredibly powerful, because Pixar has used it to make more than 21 movies sell over $500 million each, and some of those movies, more than that, are selling over $1 billion at the box office. So this is incredibly crazy, okay? It's really powerful. Question is, how can we use it for our storytelling? Okay, so now here I want to share with you an example to flesh it out a little bit, okay? And we're going to use Finding Nemo as an example. So here you have Finding Nemo, right? Once upon a time. So once upon a time there was a fish. So they introduced the characters, okay? They introduced the characters, and then after that comes every day. So every day Marlin warns, don't go to the sea, you know, be careful, be careful, be careful, right? Every day he has warned that. And then after that, one day there is this climax, this thing that happened, right? One day something must have happened, and Nemo goes away into the open water. Now because of this, a whole series of events happen. While he's in the open water, a diver comes and catches him and takes him to a fish tank in Sydney. And because of that, now the father has to go and look for him, okay? And because of that, they enlist all these sea creatures. And finally, now we come to the climax, right? Finally, the whole thing is all good, because father and son are reunited, and they realize that love depends on trust. So here again, the values, right? Pixar talks about a lot of emotion is involved here, a lot of family values. That's why, you know, we say it's a kids movie, but gosh, just about everyone enjoys a Pixar movie, because they talk about universal human connections, which is exactly what you need to do, right? You need to be able to connect with somebody on a human level. Even though you're at business, you need to have that human authenticity in it, okay? So now I realized that this particular movie methodology that Pixar uses was not really belong to Pixar in the first place at all. It actually was developed by a guy called Ken Adams, and Ken Adams, one of Ken Adams' students, actually became a trainer and started training the people at Pixar. Okay, now Ken Adams had developed this not just for movie, not for movie making at all. He developed it for improv acting, so for theater, right? For theater and stuff like that. How you actually create stuff, how you can create a story out of that. Okay, so but the principles are very similar, and I'm going to share with you his model, because I think it's actually more relevant to us, okay, for what we need. So the Ken Adams method is actually a lot more comprehensive, but it's pretty much the same. It's just stretched out a little bit. If you look at number 4, number 5, and number 6, you know, he stretched it out a little bit more, and it's got number 9 there, which is the moral of the story. But pretty much it's there. Okay. Now, Ken Adams did it for improv acting. Pixar is doing it for for movie making. But what about you and me? How do we actually tell our story using this? And that's why I tweaked this model to create something that is applicable for you and me. Okay, and that is the story method, which is in 7 parts. Okay, it's in basically 7 steps. So step number 1 is the opening. So remember, when you go and watch a movie, you know you're going to watch a movie. But if you meet somebody, you don't know that they're going to tell you a story. Okay, so, and do not just launch into a story unless you are at the right person, right place, right time. It's very important to have context for your story. So the opening needs to allow you to insert your context into the story. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is you need to have a beginning, right? So the beginning, as we talked about the once upon a time. So the beginning where you introduce the character, in this case yourself, and you also set the routine, right? How life used to be before, right? And then you talk about some event that changed your life completely, that turned you into what you are today. Now at this point, some of you might be thinking, oh, that's all very well, you know, but I never lost my job. I never, you know, had a big tragedy in my life that changed my trajectory. How can I tell my story? Well, you know what? It doesn't have, you don't have to always use a big bad event that happened in your life to turn your life around. Okay, it can be something as similar as just, you know what? I actually met a mentor who told me, quit your job in the Air Force, don't be a mechanic all your life. Look, there's an opportunity now with SEO consulting. You can make so much more, be so much more successful and make so much more money. And I took his advice and I went, and because of that I learned about the book, and because of that I got the certification, and because of that I got this new job, right? It can be something as basic as that, right? The key here is that there must be a moment where things changed you forever. Okay, it could be meeting somebody. If you didn't meet someone, maybe you watched a video on YouTube, right? Maybe you heard a talk by Anthony Robbins. Who knows, right? The important thing is you must have something that tipped you into the lifestyle, the life that you are doing where you are right now. Okay, so and then you go on to the middle part, which is number 4, right? You go to the middle bit where you talk about the consequences of that action that started. It's like the domino effect, right? Da-da, 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 and then finally you come to the climax, right? So the climax should be the high point, right? Where, for example, you got your SEO certification, or where you got your first client, or where you managed to, through that adversity, right? You managed to get something, and finally I got to be called a professional. Okay, and today, and now you come to the end now, which is basically the new normal. Okay, the new normal, it is you've been forever changed. Okay, by all the incidences of the past, you've been forever changed, and today you are who you are because of that things that have happened. Okay, and finally number 7, which I have also added. So basically in this model, I added number 1 and I added number 7. Right? Number 1, because we are using it for day-to-day human interactions, not a movie or a drama or theater. Number 7, because it's for business. When you finish your story, you need to be very strategic about your story. You need to be able to ask for something, right? Not in a bad way, or not in a very desperate way, but you need to be able to know how your story is leading you towards your business goals and in some way. So in marketing, we call it CTA, as some of you probably already know, right? Call to action. So calls to action is when you want them to do something. Okay, so it's very important that you have this in your storytelling once you tell your story, okay, to advance you to the next level. All right, so now I'm actually going to share with you my story and tear it down the way I do it according to my model. So some of you may have already noticed, if you haven't noticed already, when I told you my story at the beginning of this session, I followed this exact same 7 steps. exact same. Okay, so let's go through it one by one. So number one, I started with an opening. I said, hey, you know, if a hacker came in and took all my money away, I wouldn't care. Okay, so that led me to start explaining to you about the beginning. Okay, the beginning is where I talk about my time in HSBC and how boring it was and blah blah blah, right? And then finally I talk about what happened to me when I got to Australia with the global financial crisis, and that was that conflict, that inciting moment. Okay, how I suddenly lost my job, and then the cascade of events that happened from there, right? How I became very desperate for money, and because of that I was willing to do any kind of job which I normally would not have done. I even did a job that I had no experience in doing. Okay, and because of that, what happened was I had to be reacquainted with this ancient Japanese storytelling model, which then I tweaked for my marketing. But again, I did not find that to be very suitable for marketing. I believed it did not work until I came to the point where I was sure it worked, right? Until finally I was sure that it was really working to grow businesses and to make people successful, because it's an ancient communication method that has been proven for generations, right? And now I'm totally convinced, because I managed to grow a business 10x in 24 months, right? Using this exact same formula. So today, now we're coming to like number 6, like step number 6, right? Because it's already at the end of the story. Now it's the new normal. Now I am a transformed person. I am a brand new person, and I am on a mission to, change the world one story at a time. Okay, so that is my story. And then I did a call to action. I asked you to do something. I asked you to go to the website. I asked you to download the videos, download the free gift, and hopefully you can see the programs that I have on my website. And if you're interested, you might contact me or my team and take it from there, right? So that was basically how I told my story. And as you can see, it's a very simple 7-step story method, which I believe any one of you can easily do. You don't have to do anything dramatic. It's a very simple step. But just bear in mind, right? When you do talk about story, please do not just launch into your story if you just met somebody, because as I mentioned to you, right? This is called origin storytelling. It talks about your origin, and you explain to people who you are and how you got to where you are right now. It's not easily told as you meet somebody in the street, or when you meet someone at a networking party or whatever, right? If you tell somebody this right at the front, just as you meet them, it's too much. Okay, so for explaining what you do when you meet somebody, you can use other methods like an elevator pitch, or there are many other methods, actually, many other structures and formulas you can use for introducing yourself in a very compelling way, which makes people say, tell me more, right? But this origin storytelling is not one of them. This is when you've already met someone and you want to take the relationship to the next level. That is when you start to be talking about your storytelling and your story. Why is this super important? Because if you want to take your relationship to the next level, right? People are going to want to know you better, they want to like you, and they need to trust you. Okay, so when you tell your origin story, you're talking basically about your vulnerability. You're talking about how you went through some hardship and how you came out of it. Okay, so they're going to feel that they know you much better now after your story. Hey, look at my example, right? After I told you my story and before I told you my story, don't you trust me more? Don't you feel that you know more about me and you feel a bit more connected with me than before I started this presentation? That's exactly what I'm talking about here. If you actually feel closer to me now, then my story has worked, right? It has worked, it has done its job, right? So just like how it's done its job for you, this same story structure can do the job for you for other people, right? To other people as you tell it to them. So it's absolutely critical that you actually understand how storytelling actually works in the real world and use these methods to actually get them to know you, to like you, and to trust you as fast as possible. Because like I said, storytelling is the fastest way to gain trust, because we've been doing it for years and years and years. We've been, since we've been on the planet, we've been telling stories, whether it's been on cave walls or whether it's been today on Insta stories, right? We are always telling stories. But the question is, most of those stories are for entertainment, right? I focus at the Story Institute on stories that are created for business results. So rather than storytelling, more like story selling, right? How to use story to actually get a business result. And that's exactly what I do today. Okay, that's pretty much the end of my presentation, the end of the session today. So please, here's the link on the website. Feel free to go and download it. For your information, what's there is the other secrets. I only shared with you one secret of Pixar today. The other 21 secrets are there on the website, just as Emma Coates had shared it. So please feel free to go ahead and click on that link and download it now. And it's Q&A time right now, right? So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's start the question and answer session. I can't wait.